Summers and Kyle Murdoch were married in D.C. in 2010, and their son Alexander, love that name, was born on December 21st of last year. On Christmas Day, they legally adopted him. John is the former communications director for Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid, and Kyle was in the court today as a guest of that same Senator Reid. Kyle, I'm fascinated by, we've talked to a lot of people on the show so far today who were in the room. Tell me what it meant for you to be in there and what your take from the oral arguments were.
I think for me it was, first of all, I'm certainly not a legal expert by any means, but it was really important for me to be in that room today and very meaningful as a gay man, as a married gay man who has that civil right. And I think it was something that I'm very passionate about, gay marriage and the civil right of gay marriage, and I want to see that extended to across the country. And so to be able to be there today was really an important moment for me personally and for us as a couple, because we believe so strongly in this.
And Kyle and John, before, John, I want to hear from you, but I do want to play something that Justice Kagan had to say about same-sex marriage and what harm it could or could not do. Let's play that. We'll come back and talk about it.
What harm to the institution of marriage or to opposite-sex couples? How does this cause and effect work?
Once again, I would reiterate that we don't believe that's the correct legal question before the court, and that the correct question is whether or not redefining marriage to include same-sex couples would advance the interests of marriage.
John, what do you make of that case? That's obviously the defense regarding how you define marriage and harm done potentially. What do you make of it?
Well, Chris, the whole thing is we're not looking to redefine marriage. We just want to be a part of it. Kyle and I, we've been together for more than 10 years now. We finally were able to marry 2 years ago. And so this is about making sure that other people in other states have the opportunity, the same opportunity that we have and the same rights that we have. And it's also about protecting our child, who we now have, and making sure that his rights are protected and that our rights are protected no matter where we live. We're fortunate to live in the District of Columbia that allows for gay marriage. But, if we need to move to another state for some reason, it's important to us to make sure that our family is protected. That's all we're talking about. If Kyle has a car accident and I need to see him in the hospital, it's about protecting my right to be able to do that. And there are plenty of places where that's not allowed.
And John, I want to ask you, because I know you've been through the political wars on a lot of issues, but I want to ask you about the politics of this, which is folks who say, look, we should leave this up to the states. California can, if they want to have another ballot initiative, they're welcome to do so. That in places like Maryland, same-sex marriage has succeeded at the ballot box, which it had not previous to 2020. Why isn't that, and I asked Chad Griffin this earlier, why isn't that an acceptable argument to you, Kyle, and other gay couples in the country?
Because at the end of the day, it's all about fundamental rights. Again, just having the ability to have a family, to be a loving couple, to care for our son, to make sure that he's protected in a way that any other family would want their rights to be protected. I mean, that's all we're talking about, is just basic equality.
And I agree. I feel that in some states, public opinion may lag behind, perhaps, but it is about civil rights. And certainly, I don't think that ballot initiatives and people always, are... While public opinion is certainly changing, it isn't there in some places, and that shouldn't be a deterrent to people being granted civil rights.
Although with that, Chris, I'll just add that we've seen public opinion switch very rapidly on this issue, and I think it's time that the laws caught up with the culture.
Can I ask you both? I want to ask you, it's a personal question, but I think it goes to the heart of this. This is something that you mentioned you've been together for 10 years. This is an issue you've fought publicly for quite some time. You have a big group of folks supportive of your position outside the Supreme Court today. You also have a big group of people who are vehemently opposed to your position outside of the Supreme Court today. What's it like to face both sides of that? Kyle, go ahead. You start. I've heard from, I know John. I've heard from him plenty. No, go ahead. You start.
Certainly walking through the crowds here is quite an experience with both sides yelling things. But certainly everyone's entitled to their opinion, and there are some very passionate believers on both sides here. I think it's electrifying just to see that passion and people getting involved in the process, which is great. Certainly, I think what's heartening to me is that more people here seem to be on the side for marriage equality, which has been a nice thing to see.
Anyway, we're both reasonable people. We're, fairly used to and open to people of different opinions. variety of different things. I think when it hits the level of hatred and hateful language, I think that's when it becomes more of a problem.
John Summers, Kyle Murdoch, and thank you for joining us, and thanks for letting us show pictures of your very